So thanks everyone coming out tonight. My name is Justin Park. I want to fix that before I start. Let's flip it down here. So yeah, I attend a school called the International Space University. For those who don't know, the International Space University has several different programs. They have a master's program every year in Strasbourg. That's where I went to school and lived. One of the cool things about the master's program is that you do an internship at the end, and so they helped me get my foot in the door. I did my research internship at the NASA Ames Research Center, but different people from my class went all over the world. They have contacts with people at European Space Agency and JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, Indian Space Agency. There's a lot of organizations around the world that are doing very interesting things in space nowadays. Everyone's got CubeSats, and so yeah, it's just a really exciting time to be in the space industry. ISU also has a summer session program. They just wrapped that up this year. It was down in Brazil. Should really figure out where they're hosting it next year. But it goes around the world. It's been in a number of countries, and so yeah, if you can't take a year out of your schedule to do the master's program, you can do their summer session program. I think it's 9 weeks long. Today I'm going to talk about space and spirituality. These are my views and opinions on how I think the world should view space. Space has been an important part of space exploration for a long time. Going back to the Gemini 4 mission, Ed White here in the corner carried a Star of David and a crucifix on his persons. He was the first person to do a spacewalk. There was a lot of religion amongst the people who were part of the Apollo program. It was this kind of something that was prevalent in the astronaut selection process. They weren't incredibly diverse in that process, right? It was all white men for the most part. On the Apollo 8 mission, the astronauts read, they said a prayer for universal peace on Christmas Day. It was well appreciated by many, but at the same time, there was a woman, Madeleine O'Hare, a very prominent atheist who did not like the prayers and things that NASA were doing, so she in fact sued NASA. And so when the astronauts went to the lunar surface on Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin did take communion on the lunar surface, but they actually did that off air. There was a time when they landed, their module and everything was safe, and they were going to give the astronauts a couple hours of rest before we had our first step for mankind. And during that time, that's when Buzz took the wafer, and he had a little thimble of wine and gave himself communion on the lunar surface. Amidst all of that, there was also an organization that wanted to see a Bible taken to the moon. Because of the weight of the Bible, they weren't actually able to take a full one, but they put it on a microfilm, and that flew to the moon on Apollo 12. So in June of 1985, Sultan bin Salam al Saud, Saudi Arabian, he was the first Muslim in space. And if you know a lot or anything about the Muslim religion, they do pray very often. They pray 5 times a day, and you're supposed to pray a certain direction towards Mecca. And so that's a little difficult on the International Space Station or while you're in orbit, because you go around the Earth 16 times every 24 hours. And so they kind of made some special rules for ways he could, face Earth and pray in that amount of time, despite the fact that there's a different day. You experience several days in 24 hours. And then more recently, the Chinese space station was called the Heavens Palace. It was active between 2011 and 2018. And so, I think space is a beacon of hope. Amidst the height of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union were able to work together on the Apollo-Soyuz, we call it the Apollo-Soyuz mission, but the Soviets like to call it the Soyuz-Apollo mission, again going back to kind of this competitiveness, but at the same time, even now, the United States and Russia work together every hour of every day on the International Space Station. It's the one place, despite this raging war in the Ukraine, where we still have peace. Space can bring together universities and commercial enterprises, and I'm optimistic that it will bring religions together in a new and interesting way as well. There's an opportunity now to set more righteous standards for society. I think the internet in general just is filled with not necessarily good messages. People are drawn to negativity. The news has known this for a long time. The old expression, if it bleeds, it leads. But I think it is better to give people this new hope and optimism and all of the amazing things that we're doing in space now are giving people, even people in developing countries, this great vision of the future where we actually get along and work together and do hard things. And so, faith can give us a brighter future. I think my personal belief is that God makes a good leader. Depends, how you view God, but in a lot of religions, God is representative of love and compassion and charity and humbleness. And so I just think those are great messages of hope and peace. I think space wants to be conquered as well in the name of science and progress. We as a society are always progressing in our technology, and we're a species of explorers. I think that colonizing the cosmos, spreading human consciousness gives us a goal. I have a friend I was talking to last week, and she didn't think that we really need a goal, but I think humans are motivated by goals, and so going off and exploring space and expanding the reach of human consciousness is just something that's kind of in our DNA. We have a moral imperative to do it. We want to save the planet. There's a lot of emphasis now on doing good things for Mother Nature, and I think we're going to find new solutions to Earth's problems out in space. We're just beginning to explore Mars and Venus now, but there's a lot of lessons that we can learn, I think, by studying those other planets and bringing, the technology that we create back to Earth in order to, save our planet from ourselves, because we produce a lot of things, and becoming sustainable is tricky, but I think it's definitely within our capabilities, and if we have space and a higher power kind of helping us along, that's good to have, right? I don't want to debate whether or not God exists, but it does help feeling that you have someone out there that's looking over you, that's helping the human race along. It gives mankind, a goal too. I don't believe that we're supposed to be stuck on this planet for the next 100 years. I think we are destined to go out and colonize the cosmos. We've been talking about it for a while, but it was financially prohibitive, but it's getting cheaper, and people are getting wealthier. There's just a mass amount of wealth that's been created over the last century through the stock market and through all of the technology that we have. The only people who could afford to do really great things in the olden days were emperors who had these huge control over people, and then so they created pyramids and places of worship. I think that we should actually be making great things out in space as well, but these should be symbols of love and spirituality. Here's kind of some ideas that I have about what we could be doing in space, things that will that a lot of people have a lot of connectedness with, right? There's billions of people on the planet who pray every day, or at least pray every week. And so here are some of the things that we could be building. Starting off with basic geometries and moving on to more complex geometries that require an astronaut sculptor. Chapels are important. If you go to any airport in the world, I think or any international airport in the world, they have a chapel where you can go and pray. They're usually multi-religious. They're not for one particular religion. It's inclusive, and so I think building a temple there, or at least something that pays homage to a higher power is important, and will inspire people in a new way. And then earlier this year I talked about a light being built on the lunar surface that could be so bright you could see it from Earth. It's for people who are feeling down or lost, and just they'll be able to look up at the moon and remember that God is watching over us, kind of going back to this idea that we aren't here alone, or we're not just drifting through the cosmos, that we actually have someone that's greater than us, that kind of put the wheels of the universe into motion and has high hopes for us moving forward. Didn't make a real long presentation, but I just kind of wanted to throw some ideas out there and get feedback from people. I am working on an application called the God Chain. It's part of a prayer foundation that I'm working on, where we want to put prayers on the blockchain, which sounds kind of crazy. But at the end of the day, that would be used to fund these symbols of peace and love in space. That's kind of the goal of the organization. And so, I would just welcome any questions you have. I didn't use a microphone, but I brought them along. I feel like this room is small enough that we probably might not need a microphone. So